The story of the missing bullet holes in financial advisory fee compression. What? Josh, you've gone incredibly crazy now. I'm done with it. I'm unsubscribing. This is nuts. The story of the missing bullet holes, and you're using that to use to relate how the lack of financial advisory fee compression. That doesn't make any sense. So stay tuned, my doubting Thomas friends. Stay tuned. So I want to share with you something I was looking at today as I kind of do a cursory look through my LinkedIn feed. In my LinkedIn feed, we got this guy, Derek Tharp, who I like Derek. I'm going to hit him a little bit here today, but I like most of his stuff. He's a good guy. He writes good stuff, and I'm pleased to read his stuff. He works with Michael Kitces at Kitces.com, and he published this post on Kitces.com, which I saw via LinkedIn. His latest at Kitces.com, we continue to see no evidence of financial advisory fee compression. And then I saw 19 people gave this a thumbs up and all that, and I was like, okay, because there's a big obvious missing point that they're making. All right, so then I said, well, let's read the summary here. Despite the rising popularity of new fee-for-service financial planning models, remarkably little has actually been published on how financial advisors price their services, which is an important topic for both consumers and financial advisors themselves. In our latest 2020 survey on how financial planners actually do financial planning, we just examined both how financial advisors are charging and how much they are charging their clients for financial planning services. That's a weird sentence, but all right. There is a slight fee increase, as a matter of fact. When it came to, ultimately, the key point is that there does not to be any overall trend of decreasing financial planning fees, despite common claims that fee compression is coming for my industry, financial advisory. Rather, the trends we actually see in our financial advisor research are increasing fees. Furthermore, those trends are observed consistently across various advisor fee model, which suggests that despite strong proclamations to the contrary, financial planning fee compression may be largely a mirage. That's interesting. The reason I say it's interesting because it's just less than a year ago, actually, Kitces was... he posted that he was getting an abundance of financial advisors wanting to change their fee structure because when the markets were crashing 35% in February to March, the advisors were worried about they were going to take a 35% cut to their pay. Didn't turn out like that, but I chuckled at the irony of it all, that the advisors are fiduciaries. They're fiduciaries, and they're going to then all of a sudden, when their fee structure goes down, all of a sudden they're going to fiduciary change their fee structure to make sure they make more money. Interesting. I thought you were in it with me. When you go down, I go down. Yet a lot of advisors who are reaching out to kids says, how do I charge? Because I'm getting killed fee-wise. All right, so I posted this, and the response to this is, what could possibly be missing from this? Seems pretty doggone obvious to me. And I posted the link to this right here. Abraham Wald and the Missing Bullet Holes. An excerpt on how not to be wrong from Jordan Ellenberg. Now, this is a good book. Not a great book. It's a good book. He was reaching a couple times to kind of prove his point with not straw man stuff, but just reaching. Some books like this do that, but it was a good book. I enjoyed it immensely, and I got this article from it, which is fantastic. This alone made the book worth it on the $15 I paid for it. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go down here. We're going to show you right. Let's see. So Abraham Wald was the smartest person in the room. Milton Friedman was the fourth smartest. Abraham Wald was smarter than him. So here's a question. You don't want your planes to get shot down by enemy fighters, so you armor them. But armor makes the planes heavier, and heavier planes are less maneuverable and use more fuel. Armoring the planes too much is a problem. Armoring the planes too little is a problem. Somewhere in between, there's an optimum. The reason you have a team of mathematicians socked away in an apartment in New York City is to figure out where the optimum is, all right? So the military came to the SRG, which is a statistical research group in Columbia, I think it's through Columbia University, with some data they thought might be useful. When American planes came back from engagements over Europe, they were covered in bullet holes, but the damage wasn't uniformly distributed across the aircraft. There were more bullet holes in the fuselage, not so many in the engines. And here's the bullet holes per square foot. The engine only had 1.11 bullet holes. The fuselage had 1.73. The fuel system 1.55, and the rest of the plane 1.8. The officers saw an opportunity for efficiency. You can get the same protection with less armor if you concentrate the armor on the places with the greatest need, where the planes are getting hit the most, which would be the fuselage, right? But exactly how much armor belonged on those parts of the plane, that was the answer they came to this mathematician Wald for. And it wasn't the answer they got. The armor, Wald said, doesn't go where the bullet holes are. It goes to the bullet hole where the bullet holes aren't. On the engines, they only get 1.1 bullet holes per square foot on the engines. The fuselage and the rest of the plane are getting, almost 80% more than that. So you'd want to place the armor where they get more. They're getting hit up more, right? You don't want to place it on the engines because it's only get one bullet hole per square foot. But Wald's insight was simply to ask, where are the missing holes? The ones that would have been all over the engine casing if the damage had been spread equally over the plane? Wald was pretty sure he knew. The missing bullet holes were on the missing planes. The reason the planes came back with fewer hits to the engine is that the planes that got hit in the engines weren't coming back. Whereas a large number of planes returning to base with thoroughly Swiss cheese full fuselage is pretty strong evidence that hits to the fuselage can be tolerated. If you go to the recovery room at the hospital, you see a lot more people with bullet holes in the legs than bullet holes in the chest. That's not because people don't get shot in the chest. It's because the people who get shot in the chest don't recover. They die unless they don't go to the hospital. Here's an old mathematician's trick that makes the picture perfectly clear. Set some variables to 0. In this case, the variable to tweak is the probability that a plane takes a hit to the engine and manages to stay in the air. Setting that probability to 0 means that a single shot to the engine is guaranteed to bring the plane down. What would the data look like then? You'd have planes coming back with bullet holes all over the wings, the fuselage, the nose, but none at all in the engine. The military analysts had two options for explaining this. Either the German bullets just happen to hit every part of the plane but one, or the engine is a point of total vulnerability. Both stories explain the data, but the latter make a lot more sense. The armor goes on where the bullet holes aren't. The engine, they can take being raked over the coals on the wings, on the fuselage, and other parts of the plane, but if they get hit in the engine, they're going to kapoop. His recommendations were quickly put in effect and were still being used by the Navy and Air Force throughout the wars in Korea and Vietnam. I can't tell you how many American planes they saved, though the data-slinging descendants of the SRG inside today's military no doubt have a pretty good idea. One thing the American defense establishment has traditionally understood very well is that countries don't win wars just by being braver than the other side or freer or slightly preferred by God. The winners are usually the guys who get 5% fewer of their planes shot down, use 5% less fuel, and get 5% more nutrition to their infantry at 95% of the cost. That's not the stuff war movies are made of, but it's the stuff wars are made of, and that's math every step of the way. What did Wald see that the officers who had vastly more knowledge and understanding of aerial combat couldn't? It comes back to his math-trained habits of thought. A mathematician is always asking, what assumptions are you making and are they justified? This can be annoying, but it can also be very productive. In this case, the officers were making an assumption unwittingly that the planes that came back were a random sample of all planes. If that were true, you could draw conclusions about the distribution of the bullet holes. Once you recognize that you've been making that hypothesis, it only takes a moment to realize it's been dead wrong. There's no reason at all to expect the planes to have an equal likelihood of survival no matter where they get hit. And a piece of mathematical lingo will come back to, the rate of survival, the location of the bullet holes. All right, so the point being, if we go back to this right here, or this guy's thing, what we're missing, of course, is that we're missing how many people are not hiring financial advisors. So we're only seeing the people who hire financial advisors. We're not seeing the people who don't. It's like really like survivor bias. All right, so the financial advisors who survive have somehow were able to capture enough people who are willing to pay that fee. Many financial advisors don't survive because there's not enough people willing to pay said fee. I hope that makes sense. So basically, if I'm a new financial advisor and I read this article, I say, oh, look, people are willing to pay the fee. You're making a huge mistake. Some people are, but you're missing out how many more people are not that aren't included in the survey. Does that make sense? So you've got to see where the bullet holes aren't. where the clients aren't. Why are the clients not in the survey? This is not representative of the financial advisory business potential at all. This is just representative of the incumbents, the people who are already established, already have a client base. And their clients are inherently willing to pay because they became clients under that fee structure. What it's not showing is how many clients are not going into hire financial advisors because the fee structure is too hard. It's the seen and the unseen, the old Bastiat. I got Bastiat up here someplace. The old, I got Hayek. I have that. Anyway, it's the seen and the unseen. Basic economics. You're just seeing what people are willing to pay, but you're not seeing the unseen. The people who are not involved at all are not willing to pay anything. If you looked at the whole prospective financial advisory potential for clients, you'd have to take a huge amount of people that are willing to pay $500 but not willing to pay $5,000, if that makes sense. But we're only seeing the $5,000. It's a huge mistake, huge. And a PhD should know better than that. I'm actually, I haven't read the whole article. I read the whatever it's called, the crib notes, I guess. But I'm just telling you, man, huge mistake. And it's actually, this is where having a PhD in of itself doesn't mean all that much to me, frankly, because I'd take a guy with, just like Bill Buckley said, man, I'll take the first 200 names of the Boston phone book any day of the week to govern me than the 200 professors at Harvard any day of the week. And this isn't a bash on Derek Tharp. I like the guy. I'm very, that's why I read this article or saw this article. I'd like to see what Derek's talking about. In this case, though, there's a big seen and unseen, a big Austrian economic opportunity that everyone needs to take advantage of, or at least hear. All right, we'll see you.